Chris felt herself loosening up. The odd, homey digression had relaxed her. The fuddled-looking, harmless St. Bernard dog had returned. "That's hers, Miss MacNeil. Your daughter's bedroom?" The detective was pointing up at the ceiling. "The one with that big bay window looking out on those steps?" Chris nodded. "Yeah, that's Regan's. Keep the window closed and she'll get better." Tense the moment before, Chris now had to struggle to keep from laughing. "Yes, I will," she said. "In fact, it's always closed and shuttered." "Yes, an ounce of prevention," the detective quoted sententiously. He was dipping a pudgy hand into the inside pocket of his coat when his gaze fell on Chris's fingertips lightly drumming on the table again. "Ah, yes, you're busy," he said. "Well, we're finished. Just a note for the record. Routine, we're all done." From the pocket of his coat he'd extracted a crumpled mimeograph program of a high school production of Cyrano de Bergerac, and now he was groping in an outer pocket, retrieving a short yellow stub of a No. 2 pencil whose point had the look of having been sharpened with either a knife or the blade of a pair of scissors. Then, pressing the play program flat on the table and tamping out the wrinkles, he held the pencil stub over it and wheezed, "Just a name or two, nothing more." "Now that's Spencer with AC?" "Yes, AC. AC," the detective repeated, writing the name in a margin of the program. "And the housekeepers? Joseph and Willie?" "No, it's Carl and Willie Engstrom." "Carl." "Yes, that's right, Carl Engstrom." He scribbled the names in a dark, thick script. "Now the times I remember," he breathed out huskily while rotating the program in search of white space. "Oh, no, wait. I forgot. Yes, the housekeepers. You said they got home at what time?" "I didn't say." "Carl, what time did you get in last night?" Chris called out to him. The Swiss turned his head, inscrutable. "I am home at exactly 9:30. "Oh, yeah, that's right. You'd forgotten your key." She turned her gaze back to the detective. "I remember I looked at the clock in the kitchen when I heard him ring the doorbell." "You saw a good film?" the detective asked Carl. "I never go by reviews," he said to Chris in a quiet aside. "It's what the people think, the audience." "Paul Schofield in Lear," Carl informed the detective. "Ah, I saw that. It was excellent." "I see it at Gemini Theatre," Carl continued. "The 6 o'clock showing. Then immediately after I take bus from in front of the theatre and—" "Please, that's really not necessary," the detective protested as he held up a hand, palm outward. No, please. I don't mind. If you insist. I get off at Wisconsin Avenue and M Street. 9:20, I think. And then I walk to house. Look, you didn't have to tell me, the detective told him, but anyway, thank you, it was very considerate. By the way, you liked the film? It was good. Yes, I thought so too. Exceptional. Well, now, he turned back to Chris and to scribbling on the program. I've wasted your time, but I have a job. That's the sad yin and yang of it. The whole deal. Oh, well, a moment and we're finished, he said reassuringly. Then, tragic, he added as he jotted down fragments in margins. Such a talent, Burke Dennings. And a man who knew people, I'm sure, how to handle them. With so many who could make him look good or maybe make him look bad, like the cameraman, the soundman, the composer, not to mention, forgive me, the actors. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me nowadays a director of importance has also to be almost a psychologist with the cast. Am I wrong? No, you're not, because we're all insecure. Even you? Mostly me. But Burke was good at that, at keeping up your morale. Chris shrugged diffidently. But then of course he had one sweetheart of a temper. The detective repositioned the program. Ah, well, maybe so with the big shots. People his size. Once again he was scribbling. But the key is the little people, the people who handle the minor details that if they didn't handle right would be major details. Don't you think? Chris eyed her fingernails and shook her head. When Burke let fly, she said, he never discriminated. But he was only mean when he drank. All right, we're finished. We're done. Kinderman was dotting a final I when he abruptly remembered something. Oh, no, wait. The Engstroms. They went and came together? No, Willie went to see a Beatles film, Chris answered just as Carl was turning his head to reply. She got in a few minutes after I did. Oh, well, why did I ask that? Said Kinderman. It has nothing to do with anything. He folded up the program and tucked it away along with the pencil in the inside pocket of his coat. Well, that's that, he breathed out with satisfaction. When I'm back in the office, no doubt I'll remember something that maybe I should have asked. Yes, with me, that always happens. Oh, well, whatever, he said. I could call you. He stood up and Chris got up with him. Well, I'm going out of town for a couple of weeks, she said. It can wait, the detective assured her. It can wait. He was staring at the sculpture with a smiling fondness. Ah, so cute, so really cute. He'd leaned over and picked it up and was rubbing his thumb along the sculpted bird's beak, then replaced it on the table and started to leave. Have you got a good doctor? The detective asked as Chris accompanied him toward the front door. I mean for your daughter. Well, I've sure got enough of them, Chris said glumly. Anyway, I'm checking her into a clinic that's supposed to be great at doing what you do, only with viruses. Let's hope they're much better at it, Miss MacNeil. It's out of town, this clinic? Yes, it is. It's in Ohio. It's a good one? We'll see. Keep her out of the draft. They had reached the front door of the house. Well, I would say that it's been a pleasure, the detective said gravely while gripping his hat by the brim with both hands, but under the circumstances. He bent his head slightly and shook it, then looked back up. I'm so terribly sorry. Her arms folded across her chest. Chris lowered her head and said quietly, Thank you. Thank you very much. Opening the door, the detective stepped outside, put on his hat and turned back to look at Chris. Well, good luck with your daughter, he said. Chris smiled wanly. Good luck with the world. The detective nodded with a warmth and a sadness, then turned to his right and, short of breath, slowly waddled away down the street. Chris watched as he listed toward a waiting squad car that was parked near the corner. He flung up a hand to his hat as a sudden gust of wind sprang sharply from the south and set the bottom of his long, floppy coat to flapping. Chris lowered her gaze and closed the door. When he'd entered the passenger side of the squad car, Kinderman turned and, looking back at the house, he thought he'd seen movement at Regan's window, a quick, lithe figure moving quickly to the side and out of view. He wasn't sure. He had seen it peripherally and so quickly it was almost subliminal. He kept looking and noticed that the window shutters were open. Odd. Chris had told him they were always closed. For a time the detective continued to watch. No one appeared. With a puzzled frown, the detective looked down and shook his head, and then he opened the glove compartment of the squad car, extracted a penknife and an evidence envelope, and, unclasping the smallest of the blades of the knife, he held his thumb inside the envelope and extracted from under a thumbnail microscopic fragments of green-colored clay he'd surreptitiously scraped from Regan's sculpture. Finished, he sealed up the envelope and placed it in the inside pocket of his coat. Okay, he told his driver, let's go. They pulled away from the curb, and as they drove down Prospect Street, Kinderman cautioned the driver, take it easy, as he noticed the traffic building up ahead. Then lowering his head, he shut his eyes, and gripping the bridge of his nose with weary fingers, he breathed out despondently, Ah, my God, what a world. What a life. Later that evening, while Dr. Klein was injecting Regan with 50 milligrams of sparine to assure her tranquility on the journey to Dayton, Ohio, Kinderman stood brooding in his office with the palms of his hands pressed flat atop his desk as he pored over fragments of baffling data with no other light in the room but the narrow beam of an ancient desk lamp flaring brightly on a clutter of scattered reports. He believed that it helped him to narrow the focus of his concentration. His breathing was adenoidal and heavy in the darkness, his glance flitted here, now there, and then he took a deep breath and shut his eyes. Mental clearance sale, he instructed himself, as he always did whenever he wished to tidy up his brain for a fresh point of view. Absolutely everything must go. Then he opened his eyes and re-examined the pathologist's report on Denning's tearing of the spinal cord with fractured skull and neck, plus numerous contusions, lacerations and abrasions, stretching of the neck skin, ecchymosis of the neck skin, shearing of platysma, sternomastoid, splenius, trapezius and various smaller muscles of the neck, with fracture of the spine and of the vertebrae and shearing of both the anterior and posterior spinous ligaments. He looked out a window at the dark of the city. The Capitol dome light glowed in signal that the Congress was working late, and once again the detective shut his eyes, recalling his conversation with the district pathologist at 11:55 p.m. on the night of Denning's death. It could have happened in the fall. Oh, well, it's very unlikely. The sternomastoids and the trapezius muscles alone are enough to prevent it. Then you've also got the various articulations of the cervical spine to be overcome as well as the ligaments holding the bones together. Speaking plainly, however, is it possible? Yes. The man was drunk and these muscles were doubtless somewhat relaxed. Perhaps if the force of the initial impact was sufficiently powerful and falling maybe 30, 40 feet before he hit? Well, yes, that. And if immediately after impact his head got stuck in something, in other words, if there were immediate interference with the normal rotation of the head and body as a unit, well maybe, I say just maybe, you could get this result. Could another human being have done it? Yes, but he'd have to be an exceptionally powerful man.